This is the framework I've been using at the beginning of each year to A, take a look at where my money is at, and B, set some financial goals for the year. Regardless of where you are in your career, how much money you make, your family circumstances, it's important to do an annual review and set some goals for the year. And I've done some form of this since college so that you can move with intention and spend money on the things you truly enjoy and not let investments be an afterthought and fall behind on your long-term goals. We'll first think about your long-term goals, like when do you want to retire? Do you want to pay for the kids' college? And also list out any short-term or medium-term goals, like if you're getting married and you're saving for a wedding, or if you're going to take a sabbatical from work and want to save for expenses for that year. Have all of that written down, like literally on a piece of paper, or you can also use something like Google Docs. That's what I usually do. And moving forward, you would use that as your frame of reference. You can dream as big as you would like, and this is also a great thing to do with your partner so that you can dream together, create your vision over a glass of wine perhaps, and this is a fun thing to do together. You'd probably also want to arrange these in sort of a priority. Is it more important to take the kids to Disneyland, or is it more important to retire early? I don't know. It's totally up to you. There is not a wrong answer. And really, you're also not making decisions quite yet at this point. You're just listing it all out on paper or on a document and playing with what's more important to you and just having those open discussions. Now, after you've set your short-term, medium-term, and long-term goals, take a look at where you are today. In this portion, let's dive more into your concrete numbers. We'll first take a look at your cash flow, which is your income and how much of that is going into expenses versus how much is going into savings and investments. For income, you want to add up how much you're making, and if you have a partner and you like to think of this as a household, feel free to add together all the sources of income of the household. Besides the amount, you also want to take a look at what's the mix of the income sources. Is it all from a W-2 job? Is it all from investments? Is it all from rental properties? Whatever it is, include that information. I like to use the pre-tax gross income, and that's just what I'm used to, the original number before taxes were taken out. As for expenses, this is how much you spent in the year. I don't necessarily track dollar by dollar because I don't really believe in super detailed tracking, but in general, over the past year, how much did you spend on housing? How much did you spend on cars/car loans/transportation and gas? And then if you have kids, how much did daycare and all of their activities cost? How about healthcare? How about taxes? The reason I like to do a more zoomed out annual view is because A, there is variability from month to month, and B, it's easier to see these things in percentages if you do it annually. Now, I also recognize I've been doing some form of budgeting since I've been a teenager. It used to all just be in my head, keeping track of what I spent and how much I have. And then it moved to a phase where I did Excel spreadsheets where I did actually track every single expense. And then I tried Mint app for a little bit. Over the many years of practicing and building this skill, I now have a pretty good general sense of how much I have spent throughout the year in a certain category. And we don't dedicate as much time on the day-to-day managing money anymore. So if you're starting out, it's totally okay to be more meticulous and get those numbers right and to build that skill, but eventually you'll want to be able to zoom out so that you can focus on the big picture. And then lastly, savings and investments. How much did I save/invest from the previous year? You may want to separate out a specific savings category if you say have like an upcoming wedding and you're planning to allot X number of dollars to this so that you can see that target a little more clearly. But for me, I now generally just consider savings to be the cash component of my whole investment portfolio. And now with income on one side and then expenses and savings and investment on the other, side by side looking at your numbers, are you happy with the amount of money you're making? And are you happy with how this money is being deployed? For me personally, I'm happy with the amount of income, but I'm going to explore this year whether I can shift some of my income into my non-W-2 sources, namely YouTube and real estate. This is more of a lifestyle than a financial move to find something that's more fun and flexible and also fulfilling and challenging. Specifically, my goal is to earn 50% more this year compared to last year, and I also anticipate earning a little bit less from my W-2 main job so that I can free up some time for this experiment. My overall goal though is to keep the income generally the same this year versus last. As you can see, these are not huge changes, and that's intentional. Building stuff takes time, and there's no get-rich-quick scheme, and actually I really want to highlight this to my usual viewers who are familiar with my real estate and Airbnb investing content. It probably seems like I'm talking about investing and buying short-term rentals all the time, and that's because it's fun to talk about, and I feel like there's not enough personal and neutral and like non-salesy content here on YouTube, and that's partly why I started the channel. But it's not even close to being the primary source of income for us, and I don't expect it to be. I feel like in the real estate / entrepreneurship / side hustle money internet world, usually what gets highlighted is how much money people are making, how much fun and freedom and flexibility, financial freedom, and all these time freedom things that they like to talk about, quitting your job, whatnot. In contrast to that, stability is so underrated. There is something to be said about knowing you can completely fail at a side hustle, and trust me, you're gonna make mistakes because you're doing something completely new, and still pay your bills and live your life as usual. Anyway, I'll get off my soapbox now. As for investments and expenses, the recommended amount is to invest 10 to 20% of your gross income into investments for your retirement. And I suppose we're there. A lot of this is very much automated in the background. Like, I don't even look at it very much during the year. They're mostly in tax-advantaged investment accounts for retirement and college. We've also added a healthy amount to savings, which are mainly for emergency use. And then when it gets to a certain threshold, it'll get invested in something. Oh, P.S. I'm not counting any of the equity in real estate for this portion because that's not money I made this year. And so for the cash flow purposes, I'm not gonna factor that in. I also feel like if I go down that path, I'm gonna trick myself into thinking that I'm over invested and then start thinking, ooh, maybe I should spend more money when I really don't need to. And so I will save that for later in the video when we talk about our investment portfolio. When you look at expenses, remember everyone values different things. I deeply disagree with a lot of the personal finance gurus who say, don't go out and buy coffee, don't spend money eating out, don't buy new clothes, like try to be frugal over every single dollar. I don't want to live like that. But I also disagree with the more YOLO mentality of like, well, you don't know what's gonna happen tomorrow. Money comes in, you might as well spend it, because why are you saving it for later when you don't know if later will come? There's gotta be a happy medium where you're enjoying today, but also tomorrow. Our method of doing that is just trying to be very intentional of where we are spending money. We have no problem spending money on the things that we truly value, but we can also save money on things we don't really care about. For us this year, not counting taxes, because I already made a whole video about tax strategies, our biggest expense category are the house, which was kind of a mistake when we refinanced it a few years ago to shorten the loan term, and now we have this crazy payment, but you learn. And then kids and food and travel. And those completely line up with what's important to us, and I don't think I would necessarily change that. That said, I know we can do a bit better on the food category because sometimes we're getting takeout just because of a lack of planning. Like, we aren't even specifically wanting that food from that specific restaurant. We're just ordering it because we didn't meal plan, we don't have anything to eat, and we still kind of want to eat something tasty and semi-nutritious. I would love to trade some of that budget and put it towards like home services category to hire some help to do the other things that I don't like laundry, putting away this Christmas tree, and reorganizing the closet and doing all the other cleaning tasks in the household, and spend that time towards meal planning, prepping, cooking, and eating, which are all things that I actually like. So my goal here is to keep up with the investment and savings. I think that is going fine. And we'll keep prioritizing kids and travel and food. And then lastly, I would like to meal plan twice a week to minimize like the unwanted takeout orders with time that I hopefully get back by hiring help to do some of my other tasks. You'll notice we don't have any short-term or medium-term goals that we're specifically saving for, and that's because we don't have any life changes that we're expecting. We're not moving, we're not having more kids, and then as for travel and going to other people's weddings, going to other people's birthday parties, hosting our own birthday parties, all of that is already budgeted for in our usual expenses. But if you have something that you're expecting in the short term, like having a baby, then I would suggest figuring out what your goal is, like X number of dollars by whatever date. And then I would back calculate how many months you have to get there and how many dollars you need to put towards that goal in that month, and whether you need to shift some other things around to allow that to happen. And I would stick all of that money into like a high yield savings account, not touch it. It's accessible, but I want to leave it there. It's low risk, it'll earn a little bit of interest, and I know it's there when I need it. Now that wraps up the cash flow portion of this process, and feel free to pause the video here because I know my situation and my goals are not going to be the same as yours. And this is such a good exercise to go through either by yourself or more ideally with your partner, because it's fun to dream about these things and get aligned on your goals for the year. All right, the next set of numbers I look at is the net worth and my portfolio. Net worth is basically all of your assets, like your house, your car, whatever stocks or investments you have in whatever like retirement account or another brokerage account, all of those things, minus any debts that you have. So that could be a mortgage or student loans, hopefully not credit card debt. You need to figure that out if that's the case. And the difference between your assets minus your debts is your net worth. After tallying that up, I think a very natural question people would ask is, well, what's a good number? And that's kind of a personal thing. I would personally be happy with a number if it aligns with what I want as my long-term goals, which are to retire early and to pay for my kids' college and enjoy my life kind of along the way of building that. With your investment portfolio, you can plug in your current numbers into so many different of these calculators online. Just Google retirement calculator and you will find ones from like NerdWallet, Fidelity, Charles Schwab. They all kind of have something like this. And you can put in how much you already have invested, how much you plan to put in every month for the next year or next however many years, and when you want to retire, and it'll spit out a graph or a model that tells you basically if you are on track or not. Some people also like to hire a financial advisor to look things over, and that's totally fine, but make sure you're picking one that is fiduciary, which means they legally have to put your interest first, because believe it or not, that's actually not legally required for many of them. And generally, I would suggest someone who's fee-based instead of like someone who takes a percentage of your portfolio, or God forbid, offers free financial advice for you buying a whole life insurance, because that is a whole other topic that we will address on a different day. Now, if you're looking at your net worth and your investment portfolio and you feel happy about this, you're on track, great job, you just keep going. If not, you can play with the calculator. Can you put in like $50 extra per month, 100, 200, whatever amount, and see how those numbers change? Can you develop a second income stream, like a side hustle or another business that doesn't have to generate a huge sum of money right up front, but over time you can expect it to contribute somewhat to your retirement savings, or be developed into something that gives you passive income or semi-passive income down the road when you are retired? Or could you earn more from your job, either by negotiating a raise or look for a different job? Or do you have to revisit when you hope to retire? Maybe age 35 was not a reasonable age to pick. All of these are just different levers you can pull on and see how changing each of these can change your situation and how soon you can reach those goals. Now, the second part of this net worth question is to look at your investment portfolio and see where the assets are actually held. Are they all in the stock market? Are they all real estate? What is that mix like? And do you feel like it's sufficiently diversified? Do you have strengths that you would like to play more to? And within stocks and bonds, is the level of being aggressive versus more conservative, is that suitable for whatever age you are and when you plan to retire? And are there unnecessary management fees that you can get rid of? Again, I prefer to see this laid out in percentages because of two reasons. First is that the absolute numbers are kind of hard to grasp, at least for me. We just don't transact on a day-to-day basis on these large numbers. And so percentages can really help you understand what's actually going on with your money if you have, say, more than like $1,000 in investments. The second reason is that a lot of these investments feel like they're in the background, except for my Airbnb. And I've realized how much I think about a certain investment is highly uncorrelated with how much of a percentage it actually holds in the entire portfolio. Zooming out here can help prevent catastrophe catastrophizing over something going poorly or vice versa when something's going really well, it's not actually making that big of a difference because in reality, it makes up less than 5% of the pie. So for us, looking at our net worth and portfolio, I'm pretty proud of the progress we've made thus far, and I don't have any major changes to make. I know it sounds like it's all smooth sailing and wow, it's so easy. Just log in, you take a look, everything's done, no surprises. But I want to assure you, this is the result of many years of learning and improving, and many annual financial reviews have gone on before my YouTube channel even existed. Our goals this year would be to, first of all, grow our net worth, kind of by continuing the current pattern of investing and paying down the mortgages on real estate. And I'm not citing a specific number here because a lot of that is variable based on how the housing market does, how the stock market does, and that is completely beyond my control. The second goal I have is to continue looking into the next rental. Everything that we've learned real estate-wise so far will help us actually de-risk our next investment. And our next investment will probably be a partnership with someone else and likely actually take up a pretty small chunk of the pie just because of that partnership. And most likely the portfolio mix stays roughly the same, which I am totally okay with. My third goal is kind of more money psychology. I want to feel less anxious about whatever is happening with my Airbnb and just stop catastrophizing whenever I have a bad month. Because objectively, even if revenue declines, even worst case scenario, we have to sell it and it's a down market, it would still be fine. And we are so far from this worst case scenario. I think when in doubt, I'll come back to these numbers and just take a look objectively what the data is and remember the big picture and just chill. My fourth goal is to allow for a small percentage to be for exploring alternative assets. Admittedly, my husband is the one who's more interested in this kind of thing. I am usually the skeptic. So this is really a goal that he will direct. But it's good to be open-minded, and if we can come up with a small percentage that we're willing to use to test with it and not gamble on it with like unrealistic hopes of like magical returns that will change our lives forever, then even in a worst case scenario, it wasn't that much money and at least you're learning something. Lastly, some of you may remember me talking about looking into buying a business, and I've decided against it for now. It's a lot of work, it's a lot of capital, a lot of risk, and honestly, not that fun. I do think over a longer term, maybe like a 5-year span, I would like to see a chunk of this portfolio be business assets, but I have a feeling I would more likely build something than go out and acquire like a gas station or 7-Eleven or UPS store. Anyway, that's more of a learning instead of a financial goal for this year, and I don't expect it to make it onto my little pie chart in just 12 months' time. That's how I think about money and set my goals financially for the year, but there are more important things in life than money. Next week, I'll share my 2024 goals for my business, for my life, for my Airbnb, for my family, my travels, and my career. Please consider subscribing if you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you again next week. Bye!